Deb, I am super excited to start this podcast because in starting this podcast, that means it's the week that you and I will be venturing to Mexico together. And people are saying, wait a minute, wasn't Deb just in Mexico? To which I would say she was, and now she's going back. And no, she doesn't work for the cartel.
I don't work for the cartel, and I actually won't be working when I go back. So, I mean, it really is just going to be fun, fun, fun.
In the sun. So here's one of the things that happens when I go to Mexico. I feel like such an inconsiderate American. Do you know why?
No, because I don't think you are.
Because I don't speak the language well enough.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, for sure you are.
If you're going to call me inconsiderate, even though I just called myself inconsiderate, that means you're inconsiderate.
¿Cómo estás, señor?
Hit us with some of that Spanish.
¿Cómo estás, señor?
Or what if it's a woman?
Señorita or señora.
Okay. And what do you say when you appreciate something?
Gracias.
There you go. What else do you know? Hit us with some more of that deep Deb intellect.
Muy bien.
Which means?
Everything's good.
Very good.
Yeah.
So knowing that I can't.
And then there's this one that I made somebody laugh over this. There's claro.
Which means?
Well, I'm not sure. There's claro, and then there's claras. One's egg whites, and one is of course.
Okay.
I think it's claro is of course, maybe.
Claro sí.
Claro sí, but claro something. So sometimes when people are going, of course, I actually think they're asking for egg whites.
Be honest. When someone says Spanish, at all do you convert it into your brain thinking egg whites?
That has happened.
Where you thought somebody in the middle of a conversation was saying, egg whites.
Well, here's what happened. I knew egg whites before I knew of course.
Okay.
And finally, after hearing it many times in conversation.
Yes.
Because you would say, of course, many times, right?
Of course.
Of course. And then I finally said to somebody, I thought that claros was egg whites. And they burst out laughing, thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and then explained. And I still don't know which is which, but, it's close enough.
So I feel like a very inconsiderate American when I go down there. And because my 8 years of intermediate Spanish has not taken hold enough. So what I tried to do is learn Spanish.
Right when you're there.
No.
Oh.
Being back in America, I said to myself, you're going to go back to Mexico again.
Yeah.
Why don't you put your nose to the grindstone?
Yeah.
Log some hours and learn that Espanol.
Did you download Babbel?
I downloaded Babbel.
I bought you Rosetta Stone one year.
You did. I think it was still in tape form or CD form when you bought it for me.
Maybe.
Those exist probably in that closet behind you. And I said, Kevin, you are not a bad American. You're a good American. And good Americans are open to other countries' traditions and dialect.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to start to learn Spanish.
Okay.
So for 30 minutes a day, for the better part of a month.
Oh, wow.
I have been trying to learn Spanish. Ask me how it's going.
How is it going, Kevin?
So bad. Here's the mistake that I made. I got into, they lined up these courses, right? And it's like all introductory, intermediate, just like, do you remember what was taught to you in 7th grade?
I think I tried Babbel once and I quit because I thought Babbel was rote, number one memorization kind of. And I think they go for phrases they think that you'll use commonly.
Wait, when did you start to try to learn a new language?
I mean, I tried Babbel when it first came out.
When and why? And how do I not know about this?
Because I felt too that I should know Spanish.
Oh, the guilt runs down family lines.
When Alex forces his maids who have never been to America to try to attempt to speak English to me, it's humiliating to me that I can't learn to speak Spanish.
It's humiliating to me too as your son. Here's the problem that I ran into. I just started firing through all the courses. I was like, sí, no, Bueno, ella, usted. And I just kept plowing through it, right?
Mas,
I was
mas.
thinking like, okay, relearn this stuff, understand it to the lengths that you knew it when you were 13 years old. And then you're going to be able to just launch into the hard stuff. The stuff that you are going to blow people's minds when you start asking for directions on the bus or where's a good place to eat.
You're going to take the bus in Mexico?
Here's what, easy white woman. Here's what I forgot about myself as it relates to learning. I can't just plow through stuff. I have retained nothing that I have learned. Nothing.
Mas café, por favor.
Which means?
More coffee, please.
There you go. Deb says that to the maids.
I do. I've got that down. Yeah, there are certain things I do have down.
So I kept just going from course to course to course in my brain, just thinking like, well, you're checking the box, bud. You're nailing this stuff.
Anything.
At no point did I ever go back and test myself, take the exams, do the flashcards.
High school all over again.
Deb, I have logged probably 20 to 30 hours of absolutely useless Spanish language learning.
Hey, this was like the kid that I would just literally beg you to do your homework.
Yeah.
You would do it.
Yeah.
Put it in your backpack. And 2 weeks later, I would get a note that you had a D because none of your homework has been turned in. I'd say, where's your homework? You'd say, oh, it's in my backpack. I'd say, why didn't you turn it in? You go, I don't know.
I don't know why this is a referendum on me as a student. What I'm trying to tell you is...
because you're a bad student.
Wait a minute. What? You're I took the onus upon myself to say, you're a failure as an American going abroad. Do your best to learn. And I said, that's right. Even at 37, this old dog can learn new tricks.
Except he can't take the test.
Except I don't even know how to say this old dog can learn new tricks in Spanish. Although it's perro. I know the dog is perro.
So.
And I think new is nuevo. Okay. Tricks? No idea.
What's old?
Old?
Yeah.
Abuelo? I think that's grandma.
Abuelo? Wait, isn't that onion?
No, that's cebollo.
So cebollo.
No, abuelo is grandfather and abuela is grandmother. And because I can remember when Hillary Clinton ran.
What you're really saying is.
When Hillary Clinton ran for president, all the Hispanics kept writing hashtag not my abuela. And that's why I remember what grandmother is in Spanish.
So what you're really saying is my grandfather dog.
Well, I mean, if I use this sentence that I just constructed, but I don't know old dogs learning new tricks, it would be, my grandfather, new dog, es muy bien. This is very good, but I don't know these things.
I only know how to say that I'm very good. If I were having a terrible day, I don't know what to say.
Muy mal. Very bad.
Is it muy mal?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Why am I giving you these insights? I just spent money and time learning nothing.
You've got it. Muy mal.
Deb, I knew that when I was 13.
Okay, let's think of one. Ask, how do I go to the store? Which direction is the store?
¿Dónde está la supermercado?
Okay, do you know what I know? Good. Do you know Mercado is the store, right?
Supermercado.
Supermercado.
If I want to go to Walmart, I guess.
Okay, so here's something I know how to say very well.
Oh, please hit us with
Spanish.
it. Oh, I know exactly what it is.
What?
Go. I know exactly what it is. Go.
Lo siento.
Oh, you said sorry.
I'm sorry. Like I say, I'm sorry.
I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be when Deb goes to a restaurant. Deb, what do you want to drink? Una Coca-Cola Light.
I do know that. Una Coca-Cola Light, por favor. I do say please and thank you a lot. But no, I say lo siento, no hablo español.
No hablo.
No hablo español. I just, in every Uber I get in, that's what I say.
It would be really cool if I slow played that I didn't really know Spanish, and then I ended the cold open by saying, let's start the podcast in Spanish.
Oh, do it.
Yo, no say.
So you know what I'm going to say?
What's that?
Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. Sitting right there before she packs her bags and hits the Oregon Trail, it's my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And I'll be the guy left at home doing his best Barbra Streisand impersonation. Mama, can you hear me? I'm her son, Kev, and this is our podcast. On today's show, we are down to 6 bakers in the tent, and we'll tell you how they fared as we discuss the Great British Bake Off. And in her business segment this week, Deb will explain to us how we can manage creativity through fear. That's ominous. Then we try to find the happy moments as we set our sights to the web in the segment we call Good Job Internet. And like John Madden's famous turducken, we'll wrap this episode up with what we are thankful for and what's for dinner. But first, Deb.
Yeah.
Did you set your clock forward?
No, because they're all automatic. Apple does it for me, or Google does it for me.
Well, don't you have normal clocks upstairs, don't you?
No, I
in
have
your car?
In my car?
Yeah.
Oh, the car I might have to do. The car, the car is a tough one, and there is one clock in the kitchen. Wait. We might have to do the
You have to do the microwave.
We have to do the microwave.
You have to do the oven.
Yeah.
You have to do the clock in the kitchen.
Yep.
There's a clock on the
above the door.
No. What's the where the TV sits?
Oh yeah. There's that little.
Is that
clock.
a dresser? What do they call that?
It's a credenza.
A credenza.
Yeah.
And then there's other places. So the answer that I am hearing is no.
If it required manual dexterity, then the answer might be no.
You have lived longer than I have.
Yes.
Have you in any way adjusted to daylight savings?
Such an interesting question. So I love the fall back when you get an extra hour.
Right.
Okay. Like it just makes me happy. And I am not one of those people that is super sad. Like the lack of daylight doesn't bother me. I don't have SAD or whatever that's called.
Sad.
Yep. I don't have it. So none of that bothers me. It actually feels to me like, we're hunkering down for a long winter's nap. It makes me feel good. The shorter days, I'm totally fine with, though I know the whole world doesn't feel that way. Okay.
For sure.
The spring forward, when I lose the hour, annoys me, and I don't appreciate the daylight enough. I guess I do in the middle of summer, that it's late. I mean,
that like the sun is up till 9 o'clock?
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. But I also think, I don't know, if we just went normal, wouldn't it be fine? I mean, wasn't this done for like farmers and people that worked outside all the time?
Well, I feel like it was started by Benjamin Franklin, though I have no idea if that's true or not, but I can pull this up. But I think it was, yeah. Daylight savings time was the idea of Benjamin Franklin, which is outrageous that we're still doing something that Benjamin Franklin thought of. But the main purpose of daylight savings is to make better use of daylight. We change our clocks during the summer months to move an hour of daylight from the morning to the evening. Countries have different change dates, and it doesn't really seem like there's a reason for any of this anymore, other than at one point when we didn't have the internet and we didn't have electronics and people couldn't work 24 hours a day, somebody said, we need to take the hour and put it at the front of the day or put it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I don't see how it's remotely relevant to us in society in 2021 anymore.
I mean, there could be 1,000 things we don't know, but
I don't
nothing
think so.
obvious. Also, too, I will say this. The state right below us, Arizona, doesn't do it. And
Correct.
so, like, sometimes Arizona's with us, sometimes Arizona's not.
They're with us, I think, when we spring forward.
Okay.
That's where they're constantly
But
at.
that gets confusing when we travel because we go through Arizona a lot.
Right now,
or in Arizona. And then, like, a country like Mexico, where I go, there is a period of time where Mexico is not. I mean, or they've done it before us. They don't, it's not uniform. Like I think Mexico did it on Halloween this year.
Do you want to hear a really crazy theory that people think the world should implement?
What?
So time zones existed, again, for some reason that we no longer really need them, right? Like it doesn't make sense why does England need to be 9 hours ahead of us? Like it doesn't.
Right.
Like it doesn't make any sense. Like in today's society, it doesn't make any sense why England needs to be 9 hours ahead of us.
Except that the sun and the moon are involved, and England would be, like going to work at night or something.
But this is where the theory comes in. We should all be on one clock. It should be a uniform clock around the world, meaning that 2 a.m. in England could feel like noon. But for us, 2 a.m. is actually just 2 a.m.
So the only time I need to know is my own.
No, because it's the same time everywhere.
I'm saying, but I still would have to remember that in England at 2 a.m., they're going to work.
Well, I mean,
at 2 a.m. is nighttime for me, but in England, they're going to work. There's still, it's not like we're all going to work at the same time.
True.
So you still have to keep track of something, Kev.
Well, you're just keeping track of people living their lives. But I like the idea that everybody's just functioning on the same clock and that somewhere at some point in time, it's like, well, it's 5 p.m. It's like, yeah, but 5 p.m. in Turkey is a totally different experience. People are waking up. I like the idea that we look at these old ways and we say, no longer necessary. We don't need them anymore. Those were from a time where nobody could communicate, where people just existed without ever knowing about anything else. And so that's what time was. But now we can literally go anywhere. We can see anybody. We can have all the experiences. Let's just hit the reset button on something like time, which is a construct and isn't real anyways. And let's just all operate from the exact same clock.
So then that saying, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, wouldn't really work because it's only 5 o'clock everywhere.
But that's even better. You get new bumper stickers that says it's 5 o'clock everywhere. That's great.
That means you can all drink all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a brand new segment right off the top of my head.
Oh, great.
Let's just compliment each other on our haircuts. You go first.
Well, I wanted to say she did a great job.
Thank you.
With the shaping of your haircut around your face.
Thank you.
And I want to say, sometimes I think when she cuts the side short, she leaves the top a titch long, but she didn't. It all feels like right today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you complimenting my hair.
Of course.
Deb, I think your stylist did a wonderful job with the color.
Thank you, Kev.
If anything, I would say it's an icy blonde. And I think it serves a cadre of options should you want to be out in the sun, should you feel glamorous at night. It is just a great color and cut.
Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really feel like you're a handsome guy, but boy, with that haircut, you're the cat's meow.
Deb, it's not often that I say a woman is handsome, but with that haircut, boy, oh boy, are you a handsome woman.
Thank you. Are we done?
Clearly, both Deb and I got haircuts today. I want to say this is like the first time ever in our lives that we both got haircuts the exact same day.
Yeah. But
that's wild.
Well, my girl was on a maternity leave. For 3 months. And I didn't break down and go to somebody else.
Wow.
I didn't go and say, hey, color me, cut me, trim me, do anything. I just let it grow. And so it was pretty gray when we got in there.
I like going to the woman who cuts my hair because every single time she sees me, she says this. I think to myself, he doesn't need a haircut. And then I cut your hair and I realize, oh, yes, he needs a haircut. And I go every 3 weeks, which is frequent.
Yeah.
And you even say the same things. You say, Kevin, I don't think you need a haircut. And then you see my hair and you're like, oh, wow, I guess you really needed a haircut.
Yeah, but see, there's a part of me also that says, how much money would you save if you just eked it out to 4 weeks?
I know, but then I wouldn't feel good about myself.
Oh, and that's not. Hey, listen, money's not worth that.
That's what I'm saying. If anything, if there's one thing, if money can actually make me feel better about myself in the form of a haircut, I'll spend that $40 all day.
Yeah.
And anybody at home, you can do that cursory math, and I would pay twice as much to feel good about my hair. I like that new segment. It's never going to happen again. We will never get haircuts on the exact same day and then film the same day. That's what's wild about it.
Yeah. That's a biggie.
Let's talk about people baking. Let's talk about people baking intense.
Let's do it. I love those people that bake in the tents.
Deb, when I asked you about your business segment today, you sent it over with absolutely no explanation, and I was just left to my own devices to the point where I just put it into the show open, having no earthly idea what it actually means. But you sent over how we can manage creativity through fear. That on its face doesn't sound like the best thing in the world, but I and the listening audience are open to hearing about it.
So in the business realm, in the last number of years, we've talked a lot about creativity, and we've talked a lot about, there's a lot of people that don't identify as being creative, okay? And the reason they don't identify as being creative because they're thinking it in very stereotypical terms, like, I'm not artistic,
Got it.
you know,
Yep.
I'm not, I don't care about design. I can't draw a straight line or whatever it is.
I can't sing. I can't act.
Yes.
I don't tell jokes. I
Exactly.
don't draw. I don't paint. I don't do DIY.
Yeah, I'm not handy, you know, I don't do crafts. But here's the truth. I look at all of those things as obviously they're careers for some people, they're interests for other people, and they are hobbies for even others, okay?
Yep.
And then some people really don't engage in much of that at all. But still, here's what's been proven is that we are creative beings. Even if you're a numbers guy, you have creativity inside of you. And we know that even the numbers guy is better at his numbers if, in fact, he allows his creative side to flow as much as it is going to flow or
Yep.
not. But here's the thing that stifles creativity: fear, loathing, shame, you know, all those negative emotions that we can go through on any day, any moment, any time of the week. And what it does, creativity falls into being an innovator. And we, you know, I think a lot of people in the business world would say, oh, I do love to innovate. I love to think about what if, or could we, or is this possible? So that's where I'm talking about creativity. And that's where I'm talking about we don't want to stifle it if we don't have to. And here's the ways that I think we can help ourselves in just some really common ways
Love it.
that affect people.
Love
okay?
it.
So I think one of the things, and I will tell you this, this might be the guy in the next room a little bit as we talk about this.
We'll keep it really
Say
quiet.
it quiet so he doesn't really hear.
We'll say it quiet, and then he just has to listen to this by himself, and then he can't be mad at us.
And then he'll yell at us and we won't act like we know what he's talking about.
But he'll
later.
definitely forget by the time he sees us.
For sure. So the fear of getting started.
Oh,
Dad is a pure example of analysis paralysis.
Big time.
And not only does he thinks things to death, but then he goes down the what if, but what if this and what if that? And of course, it's always negative. It's never a good what if.
Of course.
It's never like,
What if
and
I became a millionaire 10 times over?
exactly. It's like, oh, what if that $20 I invested didn't go right?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So one of the things, and I think risk is one of the big things, you know, and we all have different capacities for risk. There's no question about that. Like you might become, well, you're a pretty big risk taker. You might become, though, more comfortable before I do in the risk department, right? I mean, it just depends on where we are. But we can't let that be the thing to stop us. So the quickest thing, if you are like really fearful about getting started, is really, you know, the people. We know them because within our teams at work, within our friendships, even within our family community, there's a risk taker, there's a person that's not. I mean, you need to go out and find those people. And I'm a pretty good risk taker, and I will kind of tell people, I can talk people off a ledge all day long. But we really need to have those people in our back pocket that can talk us off that ledge. And they are really that counter voice to the fear that's brewing inside of us. And I know one of the things I say to people, and so I do encourage people to say this to themselves because I say it to me, like, what's the very worst that could happen? And when I say that, I really want you to tell me what's the very worst that could happen. Like, could you lose your house? Are you going to die? Are you going to fall and become potentially disabled? Like, what is the risk here? Are you going to lose your job?
I think most people, their biggest fear is that someone's going to laugh at them.
I think that's huge too.
I don't think it's death. I don't think it's being maimed. I don't even think it's failure. I think everybody's biggest fear is that they're going to do something which is vulnerable, which is out of their norm, and someone's going to laugh at them.
And we're all going to giggle or something, and they're going to see it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So I really do think, number one, it's, in your cadre of people, you have to have some people that you trust and that will really tell you how it is, and that you trust them back and say, when I step out and when I ask, I can take their information and I can throw it into my algorithm and it can change the outcome so that I can at least get started. Okay?
Yeah.
One of the other ones is like the frustration of setbacks. And this kind of person. They go to work on something, they get it all organized, and the first time something goes wrong, it's like, oh my God, we better quit now. I mean, it wasn't meant to be. And I look at that kind of like somebody who might have a propensity to be a little bit negative. The glass is half empty, not half full. But I do think that happens in a process, and especially, I want to say, on a project that might be going on for a while. And I think what you just said is failure can be part of things. Failure is part of success. There isn't anybody. You talk to the most successful people in the world. They'll tell you how they got fired. They'll tell you how they got laughed at. They'll tell you how they failed and failed and failed and failed. And because, the failures are the things that taught them to finally succeed.
I'll tell you one of the two things I learned as an adult, which made so much sense to me when somebody said it out loud, was failure is just a learning experience about how not to do something.
I love that. See, I love that.
That's great. And the other thing I heard was, and this has nothing to do with it, but it's kind of in the same vein, pain is a good thing because it lets you know before you're hurt. And I feel like that's the same thing where it's you fail, you fail. And what you're learning is that's not the right way to do this. And the pain is the exact same thing, just internally, that something's going to go wrong. So failure and pain, to me, are the exact same thing. They're helping you better understand the right way to do something.
See, I love that. And that's one of the things, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, that I used to tell you when you were a little boy, and we've even talked about it as an adult.
Sit down and be quiet, and don't ever have me come back to a parent-teacher conference again.
And make sure you turn over all the cups every day. And so if every time you turned over a cup and there was nothing underneath it, or what was underneath it wasn't what you wanted, if you sat and had a complete meltdown about it, we're never going to actually get to the cup that has the thing underneath it, right?
Very true.
So there is a thing like, listen, take it. There was nothing there, or the thing you planned didn't work out. You just eliminated a possibility. Get on to the next one. So don't let the setbacks actually set you back or stifle your creativity.
Do you think, here's a question, I know this is going to be more abstract. What do you think genuinely, like if someone were to laugh at us, if someone were to see our podcast and be like, this dude does a podcast with his mom, that's hilarious, but like not in the way that we would want them to be hilarious. Clearly that doesn't feel good. Right? That doesn't feel
if they thought
great.
We were stupid or something.
That doesn't feel great. But like that's not going to stop us from doing it. And that doesn't diminish all the other voices who have said, no, it's great. And that in no way means anything because we don't even know the person. Like I am still, if anybody out there wants to do this, I am still waiting for our first really, really bad review. Mm-hmm. I haven't even checked any of the reviews to see if they exist or not. But to me, that's actually the funny thing because it's easy to make fun of something. It's easy to laugh at someone. It's easy to point out how somebody failed when you didn't try it. And then if you're going to turn to like social media or a review to say like, hey, I tried to listen to this podcast. It's weird that a 37-year-old lives with his mom and they do a podcast together. I'd be like, it is weird, but we lean into it. And that's why it's great. Thanks so much for the constructive criticism. I'm certainly not saying that I'm impervious to feeling bad if someone used to laugh at me, but why do we care so much about that?
Well, I mean, you make a good point. I mean, I think part of it for me, why it would be really hard for somebody to hurt my feelings is because my reasons for doing it don't have anything to do with that. I mean, my reasons for doing it are, I guess in the event of my demise, you have this forever. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I absolutely love our time here together, that we make this time to sit and visit, and it just happens to be being recorded. Do you know what I mean? So the greater purpose for me is always accomplished, and I'm satisfied by it.
Yep.
If somebody said it was just like such a waste of our time and we were stupid and we were never going to get rich off of it, I would say, well, it's not a waste of my time because I love it so much. And maybe we are stupid. I don't know.
Facts. At least half of this podcast is.
And maybe we'll never get rich. I mean, that's all possible, but none of that bothers me. That
of course
because that was never the impetus to do it in the first place.
It's just so bizarre to me. It's just as creatures, as human beings, because even the person, and I am one of those people, I care very, very little about what other people think of me. But that's not to say that I'm impervious to that and that hasn't infiltrated my brain when thinking of starting something new. But even at 37, I have tried things and I have failed, and I have tried things and I succeeded. I don't even remember like the beginning of half of that stuff. I don't even remember the fear. I just remember I did it and I moved on.
Do you remember trying to learn Spanish?
Yeah. Technically, I'm still trying to learn Spanish, so that's a work in progress.
Okay, let me go over the last
Okay,
thing.
sorry.
So the last one is a tendency to go into overdrive. So one of the things that I think happens is, people will put they'll label their creative project, if you will, and they'll label it like it's my passion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Well, I don't know. Is it really or not? I mean, do you like it? Whatever. But I think then what happens if, it becomes unbridled, then they're crazy with it. They're obsessed. I mean, it goes into some kind of hyper overdrive thing that actually doesn't work. I mean, for any kind of project, right? And I'm not talking about hyper focused. I'm not talking about doing your homework. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking when you're just obsessively out of control with the thing. And I think, again, that kind of circles back to number one, to that if you can't get perspective on yourself, because I know sometimes when I'm screwing something up, I can talk myself off the ledge pretty easily. There's other times I just can't. Like we had an issue earlier tonight with Dad and his eating habits, and I let myself get annoyed. So I wasn't capable of having a really rational conversation with him.
It was really weird. It was a weird moment for us.
It was weird because it's like you and I switched roles a little bit. You were so practical, so rational. You gave him the best advice in the world, really, truly, and it was the advice he wanted to hear. I mean, truth be told. And the minute you did it, I'll tell you, it took me down 1,000 decibels. I mean, I just went, Kevin's right. I mean, that's how it felt to me. Kevin's right. Let this go. And so what I think needs to happen is and I had gotten on a high horse a little bit about what I thought Dad should be eating. I was at least headed to the high horse, right?
Oh no, you were mounted and ready to spur the back end of the horse.
Yeah, I was there. And for nothing. I mean, and it wasn't until you were so kind and just spoke to him really gently and said the absolute truth. What you said was 100% true, but not in a painful, weird kind of way. It was exactly what he wanted to hear. It was exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm telling you, it got me off the horse so fast, and I was able to move, through what we were able to do. So I just think there is such magic in surrounding yourself with people that know you, that you trust, and that can have an opinion different than yours that you can listen to with your best interest at heart.
For everybody that's wondering what I said to my father, Dad vacillates between wanting to eat whatever he wants and then wanting or believing he should eat healthy. And he has been losing weight, nothing huge, but like 1 pound or 2 a week. And I said, the only thing that matters is you consume calories, a lot of calories. And aren't you lucky that nobody cares what you eat right now? So you don't have a huge appetite, but we know you love accessible food in the form of burgers or burritos or chicken fingers. Go eat what you want to eat, because it turns out that food also is high in calories, which is the best of both worlds. Who in their right mind, whether sick or not, doesn't want to eat whatever they want to eat whenever they want to eat it? But he was looking for somebody to give him permission for that. And I was like, oh my God, please go live the life that all of us want.
As he was sitting there gobbling caramel corn.
Right.
So
true.
And of course, I was kind of leaning into, of course, I wanted him to eat 100%, but I wanted him to get some healthy food in there. And I realized just that's not even a conversation he can hear right now.
No.
And you were right. He needs the calories more than he needs anything. And I do believe that I smell Cane's chicken coming through the door.
I think what sold him on it, I said, listen, I have watched enough Instagram videos about how you can hack Cane's food to make it not so monotonous, though I would eat Cane's just as Cane's as normal.
Of course. Yeah.
I said, here's what you do. You take the Texas toast, you take a knife, run it right down the middle, turn it into a hot dog bun. You take 2 cane strips, you put it in there like a sandwich. So it's like a chicken tender hot dog bun sandwich. Then you pour some sauce on. And if you like the coleslaw, there's your veg. You put the coleslaw in it. And now you got yourself a Cane's chicken sandwich.
But you gave him the really good advice was if you don't want the coleslaw, tell him you want an extra toast.
Exactly.
And they'll give you that as well. Yeah.
Any cane knowledge anybody needs, though I do not consume it, I can give you exactly what you're looking for at the exact right time. Also, anybody who's been listening, Deb has said you're right at least 10 times in this podcast. This will be our last podcast. I'm going out on a high note.
Mark it down.
Exactly.
Mark it down. So here's the thing that I think, if we're talking about creativity, and what we're trying to do is keep creativity alive, however much it exists in you, in the work that you do. And we know that work is better and that you enjoy it more if you can, tap into that creativity, little gnome that's inside of you, is that sometimes we need help keeping the momentum of that. And that when you get into the struggle and you get into those stories you tell yourself that just simply aren't true, that you have to reach outside yourself and to somebody that you trust to help you walk back to the path. It's just how it is.
I agree with you. And don't be scared. Everybody has that person in their head that they conjure up when they think it's going to be embarrassing. That person does not care. And that person in no way cares as much as you think they care. And if you are limiting yourself to what one person or a handful of people are going to say, potentially, if they even hear about it, that's no way to live your life at all. It's
no way to live your life. And I mean, I know we all have. I mean, you think about doing something or saying something or going somewhere. And, with women, it could be, and even with men, with how you look or, how many gray hairs do you have or how much weight have you gained or lost? How many wrinkles do I have, since the last time they saw me? Here's the truth of the matter. When I see people that I haven't seen for a long time, I just think that I'm so glad to see that soul. I don't think like, oh my God, look at her, I don't want to talk to her. I mean, I don't think that kind of stuff ever. I just think I'm so glad to be in their company again. And if there is somebody that does think like that, here's the best advice I'm going to give you as I look into the camera. Ditch that person. They don't need to be in your life.
Agreed.
I mean, so like the rest of us are cheering you on, whatever it is.
And the rest are just internet trolls.
Yes, and don't listen to them either.
No, in no way should you do that. Deborah, I gave you an assignment today. You complained about it, as you often do with the assignments that I give you, even though I know you had time to just sit in a hairdresser's chair and scroll your phone.
Yeah.
Were you able to find a couple videos or articles or anything relevant to feeling good to where we can applaud the internet in the segment we call Good Job Internet?
Yeah, I found 2 that I'm actually proud to share.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Hit us.
Okay. So on Instagram, I follow this account. It's called Show Me Nudes. Show, SHOW, me, M-E, nudes, N-O-O-D-Z, not N-U-D-E-S.
Clearly.
Okay. Noodles, I think his name is Noodles, Nudes, is a 13-year-old pug.
Okay.
And I mean, the guy that owns him is hysterical. First of all, he loves his dog.
I've seen Show Me Nudes before.
Okay, where like we start the day with tries to stand nudes up in his bed.
Okay, so you are getting into a deep corner of TikTok called Bones or No Bones.
Bones or No Bones.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so sometimes he stands him up and he just sloths back down.
That's a no bones day.
That's a no bones day.
That's going to be a bad day for everybody.
It's kind of like it's a little bit like Groundhog Day. Is the groundhog going to show its shadow or not? Right?
Exactly.
And then some days you stand him up and he stands up and it's like, ooh, there's bones today. We're going to have a good day.
For people who are trying to conjure this image in their head, who are probably over the age of, 25, it's a literal pug, an old pug.
Whose tongue is hanging out so far
Everybody
all the time.
knows that dog that looks like it should have been dead years ago, but he's still alive. And all his owner does, more or less every single day, is he sits the dog up in his bed and then lets his hands go, and whatever the dog does, whether the dog just kind of like falls down and not like in an aggressive way, and it's a soft bed, or keeps itself erect, that determines whether or not we as a society are going to have a good day. And it's called bones or no bones, meaning does the dog have bones in his body or doesn't he? That, I am so happy you know about it. That is like the peak of internet lovability and total insanity, that we watch a dog decide whether or not to fall, and that's going to let us know if it's going to be a good day.
Okay, so now here's the real thank you to the internet. First of all, I need to say thank you to our friend Alyssa, because she said, do you follow this account, and send it to me. Okay, so thank you, Alyssa. But if you follow Bones, if you go through and look at, some of his posts, Bones has like, I don't know, a bunch of different dog beds, okay?
Of course.
Like he has a herringbone one. I mean, like he's got like a sophisticated one. But the one that he really loves is like this kind of like fake furry soft thing. And the guy has even said about Bones has melted into this. I mean, he's never going to, Nudes is never going to stand up because he is melted into this bed. So I had Googled to try to find the bed because it looked like a pretty cool bed. And I couldn't really find the exact one. And because we have 2 dogs. And lo and behold, I went to Costco last night and it was Nude's bed.
Deb, I love it when I give you an assignment and you just take it in a crazy direction.
And now we have one of those crazy furry beds, not for $150, but for $29.95. And I brought it home. Initially, Izzy was having nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And then she kind of got in and thought, this might be cozy. And now Nola tried to take it over. So Izzy for sure likes it now. So it's a success. And Izzy can sleep there when I'm gone. It makes me happy.
It's not as though I've been podcasting with you for like 130 episodes. Every single time I tell you, hey, this is what we're doing today, I shouldn't be surprised that somehow you're able to funnel it back to yourself.
Am I not supposed?
No.
Wait, it's thank you, internet.
It's good job, internet. And you're like, and I bought a dog bed.
And I bought a dog bed.
It never, ever ceases to amaze me how you can interject yourself into a story. And I mean that as a compliment.
That's the whole story.
I mean that as a compliment.
Is there anything I said that wasn't true?
Deb, that's what's great about it. I said, I wish, I swear to God, at some point I'm just going to walk around with a GoPro strapped to my head. And the podcast is going to be the conversations we have about the podcast.
Oh, that'd be great.
And people are going to say, these are just really asinine, basic conversations. And then you're going to watch Deb somehow work her way out of making it easy and somehow make it more complicated. Because at some point, I know you said to yourself, how can I weave myself into this story? How can I make just good job internet where all Kevin says is find a good video? How can I make it relatable to my story? And you bought a dog bed.
So here's the thing about good job internet.
Yeah.
You would think that you have to go to the internet and find the good story.
No. Deb, you have to go to the internet. It's not called Good Job Deb. It's called Good Job Internet.
But sometimes you can just have something that works its way into the internet.
I will think of a way to properly capture your and I's interactions about this podcast. And people are going to be like, clearly Kevin's saying something that Deb's not getting. And I lay it out to her like a toddler. And her ability to translate it and what comes back is never not amazing. Okay.
But wait, was that a good one?
I don't even know if it was one. I'm just happy that the thing you referenced was on the internet this time.
Show Me Nudes. He is good. If people only took Show Me Nudes away, that is a thank you, internet, for sure.
Shout out Deb for giving you an Instagram account to follow.
Show Me Nudes. And then I found the exact bed that I thought was cool. And now Show Me Nudes and the bed I got for $29.95 at Costco. I mean, come on.
Deb has now officially said, show me nudes more than she said I was right. And now we're never doing the podcast again.
Okay.
So I think I've told a story before where, it was a rat got into my apartment. I think I've told that story on this podcast. A rat got into my apartment in LA and it was going literally everywhere I didn't want it to go. And that ended up with like my bed being on the side of the wall and me having to make like a clothes funnel for it to go back into the bathroom to where I could eventually trap it. There was a guy who had a squirrel come into his mudroom. I swear to God, it is exactly what I experienced. Exactly what I experienced. So there's some little steps and then the door to outside.
Yep.
And you know how there's just like a little broom closet, just like a little alcove where you might hang some stuff?
Right.
The squirrel had tucked itself in there behind like a pair of boots.
Okay.
And so he had closed off the mudroom, but like there was the washer and dryer and there was some boxes and storage.
Did he know the squirrel was in?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he had opened the door. He had grabbed a big snow shovel to kind of stop it from going into the room. All the squirrel had to do was bang a right. All the squirrel had to do was bang a right, and it would see nothing but snow and fresh air. So the guy's like slowly removing everything from the broom closet to get to the squirrel. He removes the boots, which now expose the squirrel, and the squirrel goes hard left into the mudroom. Hard left. All he had to do was go right. And then he starts bouncing around and he keeps running past the entry point where all he has to do is go down the freaking steps and outside. I sat and watched that video. It's like a minute and a half. It is every single thing I experienced, because then what happens? Eventually the squirrel just finds his way behind the washer.
Oh, no.
And the guy has to like slowly start taking everything from the side of the washer, and he's got to start like banging the side of the washer to coax it out. If you want to know what my experience, see, here I go. I'm learning from Deb. I'm tying myself into the story. If you want to learn what it was like getting a rat out of my apartment, this was no different than getting a squirrel out of your mudroom. It did everything other than what it was supposed to do. And this is Darwinism at its finest. What the guy should have done was just bash the squirrel over the head with the shovel and saved us all a headache. But it turns out he was a nicer guy, and he ushered the squirrel outside to where it could probably just get eaten by a falcon shortly thereafter.
Well, aren't squirrels supposed to hibernate in the winter if there's snow and stuff on the ground?
I mean, maybe it was an early snow. Maybe it caught him off guard.
Maybe. Okay.
It was the most relevant video I've ever seen on the internet to something that was super obscure.
After knowing your rat story,
I don't think he put any of his feet on the wall like I did to get a better angle.
Well, there you go.
But it was the exact same thing I did in LA.
Did it cause you a little PTSD watching it?
I was jealous that he was smart enough to film it. I should have filmed my encounter.
Were you cheering for him?
I think I was just a passive observer sympathizing with him.
Okay. Well, Kevin, that's a good one.
Thank you.
I like that. I do like how you made it about your story too.
Well, I just learned from the best.
When you say good job, internet, the internet is a vast place, right?
Turns out.
It's bigger than Instagram. It's bigger than Facebook. It's bigger than the news. However, this is almost like a little business segment that I'm going to share with you now.
Oh, here we go.
Because it was written by a guy that got hired on the spot from by Jeff Bezos to work for Jeff Bezos as his assistant after Jeff asked him 2 questions.
Oh, wow. Well, look at Jeff Bezos, the humanitarian, lifting America up one hire at a time.
So here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of Jeff Bezos, though I do appreciate Amazon. I'm going to tell you that. I
mean, here's the thing. We all hate Amazon for what it stands for, but none of us could function in the world without Amazon anymore.
100%. So Jeff asked this guy, brought him into the office and asked him 2 questions. Okay, first question, Kev. I want you to estimate the number of window panes in Seattle.
Estimate?
Yeah. Look, so I'm Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Kev.
Your hair is looking real shiny. And by hair, I mean head.
Thanks, and welcome to Seattle.
Thanks, I live here.
Okay, I've got 2 questions for you.
Okay, it seems like this should be a more thorough interview, but 2 questions will suffice.
Okay, I want you to estimate the number of window panes in Seattle.
3.7 million.
Okay, you're not hired.
Okay.
So this is how it goes.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm going to go back outside and start picketing with everybody else.
Okay, so this is how it goes. The guy said literally he broke into a sweat and thought, there's no way. How do you even get close to that? What is the deal? So there was a whiteboard in Jeff's office. So he said, well, I'm just going to estimate. Jeff said, hey, go ahead.
That was what I asked you to do.
Yeah. And so he goes, well, there's 1 million or so people in Seattle. Jeff jumps up and writes 1 million on the whiteboard. Okay. And he goes, so everybody lives in like a house or an apartment, I'm going to assume for the most part. So I'm going to calculate just an average number of windows in a house or apartment. Jeff has taken notes, writing like the formula down. Then everybody either has a car or has to take public transportation, and there are windows in cars, and there, so he kind of went through the day in the life of the average Seattleite, right? And then he just had all the numbers, and he goes, well, I'm just going to add in a couple extra for good luck, and for the empty buildings that are sitting around town that wouldn't be credited to anybody, added those up, added them all up, divided by 1,000,000, and then decided that's how many there were per person, or the big number. Jeff loved the process with him. Jeff said, whew, pretty darn close. That's the answer he gave. Didn't say you're right. He didn't say you're right on. So what Jeff was judging, first of all, I love how Jeff jumped up and participated and kind of was encouraging him along the way.
Look at Deb, number one Jeff Stan over here.
I know. Stan. I know what that is now, too, because of this podcast. Secondly, I love it that the way he encouraged the guy's process, whatever it was. I mean, he encouraged his process, right? It didn't matter in the end if the answer was exactly right. He gave him the attaboy for it, right? And said, close enough, good job, right? And continued on. So I sort of loved all that. Second question was...
Can I come back in, Jeff, to answer the second question?
Yeah, okay. What are your career goals?
To work for Jeff Bezos. Write it on the board, Baldy.
Okay, so that's not what this guy said.
Oh.
This guy said, actually, I've always wanted to be a professor. And I'm not sure that anything basically at this company is going to lead to me directly to be a professor. However...
That's an outrageous statement.
However, I know that there are a ton of smart people here that think differently than I do. And I want to learn, and I want to be developed by those people. The other thing I know is that I have learned the value of being outside my comfort zone. I easily will go to the dangerous place and live outside my comfort zone, and I know that that's got to be an asset to anything I do. Jeff applauded him, hired him on the spot, and he was made one of his assistants and is still with the company years later.
Here's why I hate that interview.
Why? No, that's good job.
No,
Internet.
because what he's doing is he's setting everybody else up to fail minus the person who thinks like him.
No, he's setting everybody. No.
Of course he is. Because if all I do is do exactly what you wanted me to do, which was guesstimate the number of window panes in Amazon, and I do exactly what you want me to do. No, that's not what I'm looking for.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
If you would have said, walk me through your thinking, okay, sure, absolutely. That's no different than an essay question. I can absolutely do that.
So here's what I would say to that. And I mean, I don't know the author, nor do I know Jeff Bezos. But here's what I'm saying. This guy was himself, completely 100% himself. And I think therein lies the key. I think whoever you are, whatever you bring to it. Now, if you had said 3,542,000 or whatever, do you know what I mean, 1,000, if you had said a number like that, I mean, who knows? Maybe Jeff will say, hey, walk me through that. How did you arrive at that number? I mean, maybe he lets you back it up. I don't know. I only know how this conversation went. What I know is that this guy got a job simply based on effort. And that is what we want in the world, Kev. I mean, listen, he's not in the warehouse. This guy was hired for the corporate offices to be an assistant to Jeff. So I think those are two good questions. I mean, reframed and rephrased a little bit that anybody could ask.
But that's what I'm saying is it's a setup question. Because if I sat there and I think like, here's how I would apply it. This man is so busy. Time literally is money to him. And he's not going to waste time on me. He probably wants to get out of this interview in 10 minutes, if not sooner. So I'm just going to answer these questions because in my head, I'm giving Jeff the benefit of the doubt that he doesn't have time to sit around and dilly-dally with this. He just wants somebody to be his personal assistant, right? That's why it's kind of BS. It's BS at the level of Jeff Bezos. I'm not saying that I'm not happy for the guy. Good for you. At the point that he said, I want to be a professor, but I don't know how this job's going to help me. You know, the richest man in the world if you're on his good side, I'm pretty sure he'll make you dean of whatever college you want simply by donating $100 million there.
You are now dean of the Jeff Bezos University.
Dude, act like that's not coming. Jeff Bezos, JBU is in the pipeline.
Also, hopefully it doesn't go the way of Trump University, right? So,
Deb said that, not me.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was, for me, it gets a good job internet.
Good job, Jeff Bezos. That's the new segment. We're sponsored. Good job, Amazon. Deborah, do you know who Cedric Diggory is?
Cedric Diggory. No.
Yeah. We've talked about how you're not really a Harry Potter fan, but I have watched enough of the movies to understand Cedric Diggory is a main character in Harry Potter, played by your boyfriend, Robert Pattinson.
Oh, interesting.
And so there's a video, and it just says how millennials argue.
Okay.
And it's people probably in their late 20s, early 30s, all sitting around a table. And it's these two guys. And I want to say, like, one looks Middle Eastern, the other one's a white guy, and everybody's fairly ethnically diverse around the table. And they are not screaming, but aggressively arguing about whether or not Cedric Diggory was important and did anything of note in the Harry Potter series. And they're going, one's saying, yes, he was. And the other one's saying, no, he's not. And it is such a beautiful glimpse into what millennials care about. We're not going to own houses. We're not going to have anything to retire on. The planet's going to be burning. Let's just focus on the things that are important to us. And that's arguing the merits of a fictional character as to whether or not they did something worth note to be mourned. Because if you follow Harry Potter, or only if you've watched the books, you'll know that the impetus for Harry to like spur on change and to understand his role in the universe was this Cedric Diggory died by the hands of Lord Voldemort.
Oh.
And the argument, and it's so, because I've had these arguments before, like these totally benign, don't serve anything to the better good, but you're so passionate about it that you're willing to die on this take. And these two guys were going back and forth so aggressively to where everybody else you would have thought was like rolling their eyes. And they're like, like everybody's fully participating, understanding that like the tennis match that's happening back and forth. I thought it was just such a great snapshot of what millennials actually care about, because we don't have the opportunity to care about anything real. We have to care about fictional characters' deaths and whether or not they were important or not to the fake universe that exists through literature.
I kind of love that, Kev. It is a millennial at its finest. There's no question about it.
Arguing about nothing that should be argued about. That is a millennial at its finest.
Let's do it.
Well, you can't do it. You're not a millennial.
Oh, yeah. I'm a boomer.
Here's one of the things that I don't like, and I'm blaming the boomers for, side tangent.
Okay.
Calling certain millennials geriatric millennials, I think it's big boomer propaganda to diminish our role in the world. That I think there's just like a bunch of boomers who are like, watch us craft this divide within the millennials. We're going to call some of them geriatric millennials.
I think you're a geriatric.
And then they're going to turn on the younger ones who are like, oh, that's kind of funny. We'll just say it tongue in cheek. And then meanwhile, the boomers are just sitting back there staring at their computer, wondering how to open a PDF.
Well, it's true. But here's the deal. All the millennials together would like to make fun of a boomer. I mean, just love it. So if we can distract them to have them make fun of their own geriatric millennials, I mean, that's a win. That's a win all day long.
Don't give in to big boomer. Big boomer propaganda only serves big boomers.
But Kevin is a geriatric millennial. He's on the cusp of being whatever that other group is in front of you that we never talk about.
Not even close. I'm like 4 years removed from it.
Just saying.
Deborah, what are you thankful for this week?
Oh my gosh, I've got so much to be thankful for. I am thankful. One of the things that I am truly thankful for.
Yes.
I am thankful that if I happen to go a little rogue and lose it, your beautiful practical nature comes out in full force. And that was evident tonight with Dad, but it has happened many, 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 many times. I'm not going to lie. My head spins like The Exorcist. I think, who inhabited my child's body? I mean, I really want to just scream at you and go, who are you? But you just seem to know the exact right minute when I'm going to go off the ledge and you save me from myself. So I'm grateful for you tonight, Kev.
I mean, you're nothing if not transparent in your emotions, and you wear them like a shirt. So I can see where you're at, which is like when I know that if I'm downstairs cooking breakfast in the morning and Deb is just like down there eager and ready to talk, I know it's like, oh my gosh, here we go. Conversely, I can see when she's very fed up with the topic, and then I adjust accordingly to that as well. So thanks, I guess, for being transparent and easy to read.
Well, I maybe, but thank you for being, you have taught me some lessons without being cruel. So thank you.
I'm trying to think of the last time I was cruel to anybody.
No, Kevin, you can be cruel. Don't make me now. I don't want to have to pivot on my grateful.
I feel
Let's
like
just leave it alone.
Cruel is aggressive.
Cruel. No, you're aggressive and cruel.
I might be dismissive,
No.
but cruel feels.
You're like this. This little tiny gnat that's on the paper that you think, that kind of bugs me. You are like, you take your fist like this and you smash the crap out of it. No, you have that in you.
Cruel seems excessive.
I'm just saying.
But dismissive, 1,000%.
But Kev.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You're my grateful tonight.
For now. I'm super duper thankful to go on the trip. I feel like it has been forever since I've flown, and I really think it's only been since June, but to me that feels like forever. And then I'm following that up with another trip to go see my friend, his wife, their daughter, and their brand new daughter, which I'm super duper excited for.
What is the new daughter's name? Oh, you're not going to say?
No, I'm not.
You don't know?
No, I'm not going to say my friends' kids' names on a podcast.
Because I left the other one's name.
Of course, but I don't feel like I have
permission.
Exactly.
Okay, then I can value that. You're not the creepy guy at the Halloween door,
and not cruel. Okay, but actually, this is my thankful for. Halloween fell on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've been home for Halloween in a really long time, and last year nobody did trick or treat, so I haven't handed out candy in Lord knows how long.
Yep.
We had so much candy, and for a long time we have not had trick or treaters. Like our neighborhood is picturesque. It should be flooded with kids.
Well, there's a place like 2 blocks from us where they actually cordon the street off. And I've always said they should go all the way down and around because it's the best walking neighborhood in the world.
Yeah.
But it's like our street gets forgotten. And it's a good street with good treats. I don't know what the deal is.
So I decided that I wanted to hand out the candy. And by me saying I decided, Dad went to bed and Dad was falling asleep in the chair. So I had to hand out the candy. And I in no way anticipated that we were going to have a lot of trick-or-treaters. So what I thought was, be the cool house. Be the house that gives out a lot of candy.
And we had good candy.
And we had like all the like chocolates that everybody would want. Mm-hmm. So we just kept getting like, I think we only probably got like 8 or 9 groups of kids, average about 4 kids per group. And I would give them a Kevin Zener handful size of chocolate. I was Halloween Santa Claus to these kids. The first group, and this is what made me happy. The first group was all girls, probably like 6 to 7 years old, right? All dressed like witches and fairies. And I gave them my big mitt claw candies. And as I'm closing the door, they're like sprinting off the front porch, running to their parents, and they go, "He gave us so much candy." And in that moment, I was taken back to the understanding of like when somebody gave you more than one piece, let alone like multiple pieces. Halloween was made, and I ended up giving out like the perfect amount. There's only 3 pieces left. Nobody else came after that. We were totally done. We didn't have any candy to eat, so we're better off because of it.
Listen, I'm grateful for that for sure. I saw the 3 pieces and one of them had gluten, so I knew like I was safe from that. But that bowl was heaping full of good chocolate, Reese's peanut butter cups, and all sorts of stuff. And I mean, it felt like minutes later it was gone. It was empty. And I think the kids are still talking about that giant guy that gave them tons of candy. So they're probably grateful too, Kev.
I will never see those kids again. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup, but I was so happy to make their Halloween. Deborah, what's for dinner?
So I really want to make something new, something different.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I mean, but I've just had such a hard time lately.
Okay.
So I think, you want to help cook dinner tonight?
I want you to say what's for dinner. I love that this somehow stumps you. It has literally been in every single podcast we've done.
Thank you.
You're sitting here like, what do people eat?
Well, I just feel like we've made everything. Okay, give me a minute here. We're going to have nachos for dinner tonight. Oh.
Can't breathe. We're going to be in Mexico in 3 days. Let's get a little excited for it by making traditional white people nachos. It's the worst. It's the worst suggestion you've ever made. It's so bad. But we're going to make nachos. We're going to make nachos.
Good-looking nachos, okay?
Oh my gosh, Deborah. Kudos to the nachos. That's going to do it for this Monday's episode of the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like, rate, and review wherever you listen to this podcast. And you can follow us on all of our social channels where you will see those nachos at Deb and Kev Pod. And you can watch this episode at our YouTube channel at Deb and Kev Pod. Nacho lady.
I love you.
I love you to death.
I love you too, baby.
We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter at Deb and Kev Pod.